There's a strange kind of exhaustion that only too nice people understand. It's the kind of tired that doesn't come from working too much, but from caring too much. From swallowing your truth so someone else can stay comfortable. From smiling when your heart is breaking. From saying, "It's okay," when it's absolutely not. This is the dark side of being too nice. And if you've clicked on this video, you already know exactly what I mean. Why your kindness is slowly killing you. You weren't born to be everyone's emotional punching bag. You weren't born to be the glue that holds broken people together. You weren't born to shrink yourself so others could shine. But somehow, you learned to. Maybe as a child, you noticed that people only liked you when you behaved a certain way. Maybe the quiet smile was safer than saying what you really felt. Maybe avoiding conflict kept you alive in a house that felt like a battlefield. And slowly, the real you disappeared. When niceness becomes a prison. People think being nice is simple, but the truth is, it's one of the most complicated coping mechanisms a human can develop. Nice people aren't nice because they're saints. They're nice because they're scared. Scared of being abandoned. Scared of being hated. Scared of disappointing someone. Scared of becoming a burden. So they give, and give, and give, until there's nothing left of them. And ironically, the people they're trying to please rarely notice the effort. Or worse, expect it. The childhood blueprint. Every too nice adult was once a child who learned that love must be earned. Maybe you learned that your feelings didn't matter. Maybe every time you cried, you were told to stop overreacting. Maybe every time you were honest, someone punished you for it. So you adapted. You became easy, quiet, pleasant, perfect. You became the helper, the listener, the fixer, the child who held everyone else together because the adults couldn't. And today, you still carry that responsibility like a weight on your chest. The curse of emotional hyper-awareness. Nice people have a dangerous superpower. They can sense tension before anyone else feels it. They watch faces. They analyze tones. They study body language. They adjust themselves instantly. Someone's upset? You soften your voice. Someone's disappointed? You offer to fix it. Someone hints they need something. You give it before they ask. Because the greatest fear of a too nice person is being the reason someone feels hurt, even if they themselves are hurting. Why people use you without realizing it. Here's the brutal truth. People don't treat you based on your intentions. They treat you based on what you allow. If you keep giving without limits, they'll keep taking without thinking. If you always say yes, they'll stop believing you're capable of no. If you never show you're hurt, they'll assume they never hurt you. And your silence becomes the rope you tie around your own heart. The emotional cost you hide from everyone. Being too nice has a price, and that price is you. You lose your boundaries. You lose your voice. You lose your identity. You lose your sense of worth. and the world applauds you for it. Wow, you're so patient. Wow, you're so helpful. You're such a good listener. But nobody says, you look exhausted. Are you okay? Because you've mastered the art of hiding your exhaustion behind a polite smile. You give love easily, but struggle to receive it. Nice people know how to love deeply. They know how to care fiercely. They know how to give without limits. But ask them to receive love, compliments, help, support? Suddenly, they freeze. Because receiving love means admitting they deserve it, and that scares them more than anything. The silent anger no one knows about. People think nice people don't get angry. They do. They just don't show it. They bury it, swallow it, hide it behind jokes, transform it into overthinking. Until one day, they explode or disappear. Not because they hate others, but because they finally realized how much they've been hating themselves. The collapse behind the smile. There's a moment every too nice person knows. A moment when you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back. Because they're not you. Not really. They're the version of you that the world demanded. The version that keeps the peace. The version that never bothers anyone. The version that sacrifices quietly and breaks privately. The version that is slowly fading away. The guilt that keeps you trapped. Nice people don't set boundaries because they're weak. They don't set boundaries because they feel guilty for having needs. Guilt is the leash that keeps them quiet. If they say no, they feel guilty. If they take a break, guilty. If they express their emotions, guilty. If they put themselves first, even for a second, guilty. It's a constant tug of war. I want to protect myself versus, but I don't want to hurt anyone. So you choose to hurt yourself instead. Why you attract emotionally heavy people. Nice people attract the wounded, the chaotic, the demanding, not because they deserve suffering, but because they radiate safety. People feel they can unload on you, they can cry on you, they can lean on you, they can drain you. And you, with your soft heart, allow it. Not because you want to, but because saying no feels like betrayal. You become everybody's comfort, everybody's sanctuary, everybody's emotional shelter. But who is yours? The loneliness behind being everyone's safe person. Being the person everyone turns to means being the person who has no one to turn to. You listen to everyone's problems, you soothe their fear, you absorb their pain. And when you finally need someone, they're suddenly busy, unavailable, or they disappear entirely. Not because they're cruel, but because you've trained them to believe you're okay. You've trained them to believe you don't need help. The exhaustion that comes from being perfect. Being too nice means constantly smoothing your rough edges, filtering your words, hiding your irritation, pretending you're fine. You craft yourself into the most digestible version of a human being, but perfection is a cage. You become terrified of making mistakes, of disappointing people, of being misunderstood. So you keep wearing the costume, even when it suffocates you. The silent rage you carry alone. There's a special kind of anger that only too nice people feel. It's quiet, it's drowned out, but it's there. The anger of being misunderstood, the anger of being overlooked, the anger of being taken for granted, the anger of being expected to carry more than your share. But instead of expressing it, you turn that anger inward, and it becomes self-blame, self-doubt, self-loathing. Why you stay in one-sided relationships. Nice people often end up in relationships where they give 90% and receive 10%. Why? Because they confuse attention with love, and acceptance with connection, and validation with affection. They convince themselves, maybe they'll love me more if I try harder. Maybe if I'm patient, they'll change. Maybe my kindness will soften them. But the truth is, some people love what you do for them, not who you are. The fear of being a burden. Nice people rarely talk about their feelings, not because they don't have any, but because they're terrified of being too much. So they hide their hurt, they swallow their needs, they stay quiet even when they feel invisible. They think, I don't want to bother anyone. I'll handle it myself. They already have enough to deal with. But in reality, you are burdening yourself so no one else has to carry anything. The emotional erosion of self-sacrifice. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you smile through pain, you lose your authenticity. Every time you force yourself to be nice, you lose your truth. Eventually, you don't even remember what your needs are, your boundaries, your desires, because they've all been buried under everyone else's demands. There comes a point where your mind stays silent, but your body begins to scream. The headaches, the exhaustion, the knots in your stomach, the tension in your shoulders. These are not random discomforts. They are your body whispering, I can't keep pretending anymore. Your body carries the weight your voice refuses to release. When you say yes, but you mean no, your chest tightens. When you help another person while you're falling apart, your heartbeat changes. When you suppress your emotions to be strong for others, your nervous system pays the price. You don't collapse suddenly. You collapse slowly, one invisible sacrifice at a time. The smile that covers the storm. Nice people are experts at smiling through everything. Inside, they're drowning. Outside, they look calm. They learn to cry quietly. They learn to hide swelling emotions behind polite nods. They learn to laugh even when their soul feels bruised. And the world celebrates this. Wow, you're so strong. You're always so positive. You never complain. But they don't realize your positivity is not joy, it's armor. You're not cheerful, you're surviving. The moment you realize you're always the helper. There's a moment when you look around your life and notice an uncomfortable truth. You are everyone's support system, but nobody's priority. You're the emotional sponge, the listener, the comforter, the advice giver. You're the person they call when they need something, but you're rarely the person they check on. They love the version of you that solves problems, but they don't always see the version that has problems. You've become a role, not a person. Why you apologize for existing. Nice people apologize even when they did nothing wrong. Sorry for bothering you. Sorry for asking. Sorry for misunderstanding. Sorry for needing help. Sorry for taking your time. It becomes a reflex, an unconscious belief that you are an inconvenience. You apologize for walking into a room, for speaking up, for being emotional, for having boundaries. You apologize simply for being human. The invisible loneliness of the strong one. People who are too nice often live in a strange kind of loneliness. A loneliness that hides behind busy schedules, behind responsibilities, behind kindness. You're surrounded by people, yet you feel alone. Because no one sees the full picture. No one sees the weight you're carrying. No one sees your silent battles. You've become emotionally invisible. You protect everyone, so no one realizes you need protection. The emotional debt you never asked for. When you're too nice, you become emotionally indebted to everyone. A friend tells you their problems, and you feel obligated to fix them. Someone vents, and you feel responsible for their peace. Someone hints they're upset, and you feel guilty until you fix it. You begin to carry emotional debts that were never yours to pay. You take responsibility for emotions you didn't create. Niceness becomes a trap, not a choice. The moment your identity starts to crumble. Being too nice doesn't just drain you, it erases you. You forget what you want, you forget what you like, you forget your opinions, your preferences, your boundaries, your voice. You become a mirror, reflecting the needs of everyone around you. You become so used to adapting that you don't even know what you means anymore. You lose yourself in the effort to not lose anyone else. The breaking point that nobody sees coming. Every too nice person has a breaking point, and it always arrives quietly. Not with shouting, not with chaos, not with confrontation. It arrives with a whisper. I can't do this anymore. A silent exhaustion, a heavy breath, a moment of collapse, a private meltdown behind a locked door. People are always shocked. You seemed fine. You never said anything. You never looked upset. And you want to say, I tried to be fine so you wouldn't worry. Your kindness kept you silent. Your silence kept you hurting. When niceness turns into self-betrayal. The truth is, being too nice is not kindness. It is self-abandonment dressed as kindness. It is the slow sacrifice of your mental health in exchange for temporary approval. It is betraying your own needs because you're afraid of disappointing others. It is choosing peace on the outside while creating war on the inside. You become the villain in your own story to keep playing the hero in other people's stories. There comes a day when your soul refuses to stay quiet, a day when the weight becomes too heavy, a day when your smile feels like it's made of glass, fragile, cracking under the slightest pressure. You wake up, and something feels different. Your chest is tight, your mind is tired, your heart whispers, I can't keep doing this. You don't explode, you don't shout, you don't fight. You simply stop. Stop carrying everything. Stop pretending. Stop rescuing everyone but yourself. And in that stillness, you realize how much you've been holding back tears, exhaustion, anger, fear. You realize you've been surviving instead of living. When niceness turns into resentment. What people don't understand is that being too nice eventually creates resentment. Not because you want to be unkind, but because your kindness is never reciprocated. You give and give until you have nothing left. You get taken for granted. You get ignored. You get dismissed. You get overlooked. And deep down, you start to feel a bitterness you're ashamed to admit. You resent the people who drain you. You resent yourself for allowing it. You resent the world for rewarding takers. But resentment is not cruelty. It's a sign that your kindness has become self-destruction. Why you attract people who need fixing. Nice people often attract the wounded, the broken, the chaotic, the lost. Not because they want to save them, but because broken people sense something in you. Your gentleness, your patience, your empathy, your willingness to absorb pain. People who need healing gravitate toward people who feel safe. But here's the hidden truth. They come to you for comfort, not companionship. For emotional labor, not love. For rescue, not reciprocity. You become the hospital they check into, but never stay to help clean. The pain of being too understanding. One of the most heartbreaking parts of being too nice is how much you understand people, even when they hurt you. You make excuses for their behavior. They're stressed. They didn't mean it. They're going through something. They didn't know better. They just need time. You justify their poor treatment because you see their pain more clearly than your own. But the truth is, understanding someone does not mean you must tolerate them. Being compassionate does not mean being invisible. When you realize you never learned to receive. People who are too nice often struggle with something crucial: receiving love. You deflect compliments. You minimize gratitude. You deny help. You push away care. Not because you don't want it, but because deep down, you don't feel worthy of it. You're more comfortable giving than receiving, more comfortable helping than being helped, more comfortable supporting than being supported. You know how to be useful, but not how to be loved. The emotional collapse nobody talks about. When you finally burn out, it doesn't look heroic. It doesn't look noble. It doesn't look graceful. It looks like crying in the shower, taking deep breaths in a dark room, feeling numb around people, avoiding messages because you have nothing left to give, feeling drained by small conversations, wanting to disappear so you can finally rest. It's not drama. It's not weakness. It's exhaustion. It's the cost of carrying too much for too long without asking for anything in return. The awakening of self-preservation. But after the collapse comes the awakening. Something shifts inside you, a small spark, a quiet realization. Maybe I can't keep living like this. You start to see patterns. You start to question people's motives. You start to notice who drains you and who nourishes you. You begin to understand kindness without boundaries is self-harm. This is the moment when the too nice person begins to rebuild themselves. Learning the power of no. Your healing begins with a simple, terrifying word: no. No to extra responsibilities. No to emotional dumping. No to guilt-driven obligations. No to unhealthy relationships. No to being the default caretaker. At first, the word feels unnatural, wrong, selfish. But then you notice something. The world doesn't end. People adjust. You feel lighter. Your chest loosens. Your energy returns. No becomes the door to the life you were always meant to have. When people get angry at your boundaries, the moment you start setting boundaries, something interesting happens. The people who benefited from your lack of boundaries get upset. They call you changed, cold, distant, selfish, unfair. But their reaction reveals something important. They were never interested in you. They were only interested in what you provided. Your boundaries expose truth, and truth makes people uncomfortable. Rebuilding your identity. As you heal, you begin to rediscover yourself. What you like, what you dislike, what drains you, what inspires you, what you need, what you can no longer accept. You begin to reconnect with desires you suppressed for years. You begin to hear your own voice over the noise of others. You become someone stronger, not less kind, just less breakable. Becoming the version of yourself you needed. Eventually, something beautiful happens. You become the person you always needed. Not the overly nice one, not the exhausted giver, not the silent caretaker. You become someone balanced, someone grounded, someone who loves without losing themselves, someone who gives without breaking, someone who cares without collapsing. You become whole. The final message for the people who are too nice. If you've spent your life trying to be the good one, the helpful one, the selfless one, please hear this. You deserve the same love you give. You deserve rest. You deserve boundaries. You deserve protection. You deserve understanding. You deserve a safe place too. You deserve support. You deserve softness. You deserve people who show up for you without needing you to fall apart first. You are allowed to stop carrying everything. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to rest. And most importantly, you don't have to destroy yourself to be loved.